Hello, hello, hello. This is Joy, everyone, with Let's Talk About It. Today, we will be talking about the many faces of autism. Tonight, we have three mothers with children with different developmental challenges, and they'll be telling you their journeys. We have Chrissy. Then we have Trey Bay. You guys know her. You guys seen her in different other lives. Then we have Urena, Lil Ray. All right. So, so the first question, because the thing about autism is a lot of people don't really know what it is. And a lot of people think like, oh, I don't want my child to even I don't even want to think of that my child may have autism because I don't want anything to feel like my child has anything wrong with them. And as a mother, I kind of understand that, when you think of your children, everybody wants their children to be like, perfect, but the reality of it is that your child may have some delays or some developmental challenges. That does not mean that your child can't be successful in their own right, that they can't be a child that has a regular life just like any other children. So tonight we're going to be talking to some mothers who can give you their stories about their journey with their children that may have developmental challenges or autism. All right. So first we're going to ask Chrissy. Chris. So now Chrissy has two sons, both my godsons. And and one of her sons is on a spectrum of autism, correct?
Right.
And now what was it that happened with Brandon that made you say, let me go and have him tested or evaluated?
Okay, so it was small signs in between that I didn't really pay attention to due to the fact that I had already had one kid around kids forever, and I really didn't pay attention to that sign. Just thought it was like, which I go into later. What made me really, and then something else happened, which I'm like, okay, maybe, but then I still ignored it because it wasn't like a consistent thing. But it became a consistency of then checking on it when he then started being even more volatile. Um, just small things triggering him and starting anxiety to build up. But still, it wasn't. Let me test him. This is more so of okay. Something I don't know what it is. I'm thinking it's being bullied that's causing him to be triggered.
Oh, that's making
So
act out.
right, and acting out exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it still wasn't in my head that that's what it was because I'm thinking, this is me not understanding. This is something you may have or may supposedly have as a younger age that over time comes, not just spare the moment comes out at 8. So then
Also, so does how because most people know that or may think like, because he never had a problem with speech. He started
oh,
saying
he's
his
always had
words.
these. No, all the triggers were there. I just paid him no attention, due to the fact that my parents are both Southern. So, of course, your speech is jacked up anyway
Yeah.
because of that. And my oldest son already had this speech same way. So I'm like, oh, okay, I already know you're going to go through it too. Your dad walking
Okay.
around saying foots. What you think going to happen to your kid? So I'm like, okay, I'll push that under the rug. He was also a preemie that we had issues with as far as his birth with things with having to emergency C-section and
Mm-hmm.
NICU and not being able to feed himself at birth when he first came out. It was a lot of things, and then having to fatten him up with some high calorie formula at birth. So it was a lot of things that was happening, and then he was also loving to chew on his shirt. And I was just like, why you want to chew on it? And now just left that be too. So it was stuff happening. He was rocking also since like 8, 9 months, just sitting in the chair and going like this. And I let that go too, thinking he just had a musical thing going on in his head because, he's around that from his donor. That's what he's going to be called on here. So I'm like, okay,
His
maybe
his donor is his father, yeah.
he is not the father. So I let all that stuff slide. Only thing that
Okay.
made me then look into it was when all of a sudden these outbursts start happening in third grade, and I had to continuously go to school, and it was just anxiety building up, and it would turn into rage. And from there, they still didn't think that, it still wasn't thinking it was anything autistic. It was just behavioral, because he was
Mm-hmm.
diagnosed with ADHD at 4, behavioral. So we're thinking it's behavioral. It took until the outburst continued and he didn't like to be touched for the nurse at the school to tell me that her child has sensory processing disorder, which is a form of autism on a high spectrum where your senses are a little sensitive, basically. You don't like to be touched. If you're touched, you feel like somebody's really doing extreme measures to you than what this little soft touch is.
Okay.
And so that's what then made me go get him checked and see exactly what was going on and move further with things instead of just sticking on this behavioral level that they still didn't understand. And me personally, when he had his first outbreak, outburst, I asked myself, because I did see a child maybe 10 years ago have an outburst, and the mom told me at that point that her child had autism, and that's what that child did. And I'm like, okay. And that just came back in my head when he did it. And I asked the teacher, like, do you think this is a sign of autism? Because he only did it that one time because he had a bad day at school, and they graded him on it and said, you have a bad day for today. And that's how he took it. And she was like, no. And it stuck with me. So yeah, that was the story leading up until to then,
Getting
going through
evaluated.
seeing exactly what it was. It wasn't even, it just came out of nowhere around 8. And then in that same process, my mom passed. So now they're like, oh, it's still not autism. It could be grief. He could have felt
Right.
it coming. So now I'm like I got a diagnosis for everything. So yeah, so it was still winging through it. So, am I supposed to continue on with like the whole journey? Or was
No,
the
no, no,
question
no. Well,
was,
I'll
all
get
right,
back to it.
I was trying to I thought I was doing like a teaser,
Yeah.
teasing.
All right, Trey Bay. So now Tracy, she has a son, which is my nephew. And now he doesn't have autism, right, Trey?
Right. He has a risk of autism, and I can go through some of the things.
Okay, so now what things were happening or patterns did you see that made you, and at what age did you get Joshi evaluated?
Okay, so my son Joshua, he just turned 9, the end of April, and I would say let me back up. I had Joshua emergency C-section. So when
It might be a C-section thing then.
oh, it was a rough one, but he was supposed to be vaginal birth, but when I went in to check on me because I was past my due date, and they heard his heart rate, they said, "Oh, you're going in for emergency C-section." And so when he was delivered, his umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck. So they got that, unraveled and so forth. And, his lungs were strong. Doctor came out and said, oh, he's strong lungs, this, and that. So I guess that was, fine. He had a hard time latching on, but I didn't think anything of it because I've heard other stories, so on and so on. So let's just say breastfeeding didn't last long. We went to formula, bottle feeding. So I would say as an infant, everything was, normal, so on, the feeding, the nights, this has nothing to do with any autism signs, but I will say around 5 or 6 months, he got eczema. So anybody that has eczema or has any babies or kids or adults have eczema, it's very itchy of the skin. So around 5, 6 months, he would I would check him in the crib, and he would be like scratching a lot where he'd be bleeding and so forth.
Oh,
so
wow.
That took on a whole different turn, you know what I mean, with that. So around young babies, when babies put like the puffers in their mouth, they melt in the mouth. Joshua would never want to put them in his mouth. He would always like play with it. And I said, okay, well, like Chrissy, I didn't think anything of it, whatever. Maybe he's picky eater, this and this and that, because he was eating, the baby food, the mushy food. So I thought that was fine. And then as he got a little older, I noticed, like most babies, you maybe give them like a piece of meat or something. They would have a desire to grab for food. And he wouldn't do that because I would talk to my friend and she'd like, oh, no, my baby at that age was doing this and this and that. I said, okay. I was like, all right, So we took him to a feeding evaluation at the Children's Specialized Hospital. And they put certain, I think at that time he might have been 1.5 or something like that. But mind you, during this time, also, we're learning that Joshua is starting his food allergies. That's a whole nother story, but we'll get there. So we're starting the food allergies. So anyway, so between the food allergies and the picky eating and all that kind of stuff, they said he has a problem with chewing, which I never, heard of. So
Right.
so anyway, we had to take him to a feeding therapist at the Children's Hospital, and literally they were helping him to chew. Like they put something in his mouth and helping him to chomp. So once he did good with that, then we start with like small foods like watermelon, pineapples, and things like that. He stayed there for a couple months, and he graduated. So everything that we were taught, we took that at home, and he was doing well. So we're jumping to like around 2 years old, went to he took speech. Okay, so for the speech, it was a delayed speech as well. So when he would go to his pediatrician, you know how they would mark up, is your child doing this, is your child doing that? And, he wasn't meeting the mark. He was like delayed. When we back up with the walking, was like delayed walking. But I've heard from other parents, oh, my kid didn't walk in the sun, so he'll be fine, So I think he didn't start walking until around 14 months, but he would always hold on to things around the house.
Okay.
But, once again, so at the doctor's around 2, she said, oh, he's not doing this, give a call, early intervention. So they came to the house. They came and said, oh, he's fine. He'll, the speech, he'll grow out of it, just keep doing this, keep doing that, he'll be fine. So I'm like, okay, and then he got reevaluated, and they say, you know what, he qualifies for early intervention. So I would say about from 2 to 3, because early intervention in New Jersey stops. So from 2 to 3, he was taking this speech and occupational therapy, which helps with the walking and, things like that. Slow delay with the riding a tricycle. It took him a long time to ride a tricycle, like little simple things like that.
Okay.
But once again, it's like, okay, well, not everybody learn. I know some adults that never been on a bike, you know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, whatever. And then also anybody that knows Joshua is very scared of people, especially adults. Like with kids, he's fine. But like a strong anxiety around like adults,
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I'm like, okay, well, I was shy, his father was shy. And so I'm like, okay, so I would just say like little things like that. And then he went to, at the hospital once again, he was a part of like a social group with other kids his age. Most of them were boys, maybe like 1 or 2 girls, most of them were boys. And there they taught the kids, how to conversate back and forth on that, age level. And then she did say he did have some anxiety, but he would loosen up around the kids. So, and like the textures with things like that, the loud noises and the textures and, things like that. So around 3, he got tested for autism. And then that's when they diagnosed him with, he's at risk for autism. And then she said, just between all his therapists and the doctor there, they just said, keep exposing him to different crowds, big crowds, noises, and keep exposing him to different textures and, things like that. So anybody that, knows us knows that we constantly do that. And as far as noise, Joshua loves his drums, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. He loves his drums. So anyway, so just wrap it up. Like we just keep exposing him to different things, not keeping him excluded, And during the pandemic, when it first happened, that hit him really hard because you go from like going to school, being around kids and different things like that, and being stuck home with just us old folks. Like it got to him after a while, you know what I mean? So that's when I really realized that he really needs to be around, his peers, kids, and then eventually when things started opening up, people were, less scared to get out. That's, we just kept exposing him and, that's pretty much it. So it's just exposure.
But it was just those little things like him not eating, him not walking, him not talking. Those are the things that prompted you to say, okay, we have to look into those things. And as those things continue, that's when it progressed to you getting them evaluated.
Right.
Okay.
And still today in school, he still takes occupational therapy, still takes this speech therapy. We'll still keep going back to the doctor and get reevaluated, So I would just say everything I pretty much named, some things gotten better, of course, as he's older, but still, a lot of work to do. So I would just say
Okay.
that.
All right. Next is Urana. And now Urana has a slew of children. Urana got 6 babies. She has 6. And one of her children, one of her daughters, her second oldest, my little Nene, my little baby. She was always precious. Oh my gosh. So she was. Don't let it get your in the face for you. She was a sweet, sweet baby. So Ray, what was it that made you get Nene evaluated? What was some of the patterns she was showing that made you say, let me get her evaluated?
So Angenique was emergency C-section. She was born 29 weeks at castration. So she was very much preemie. Even though, children at 29 weeks should be at least 3, 2.5, 3 pounds. Angenique was 1 pound, 14 ounces.
Mm-hmm.
So I was emergency C-section with her. She came out, she had the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck, and she was not breathing. They had to resuscitate her 3 times. I was knocked out because it was emergency C-section. It was like the day after Thanksgiving. I had eaten. I didn't even know I was in labor. Went to the doctors like the day before. He's like, oh, you're a little dilated. I'm like, a little dilated? I shouldn't be dilated at all. But
Right.
okay, if I'm cool, then I'm cool. You know what I mean? So went to Thanksgiving, went about my business. And then at 3:36 in the morning, I'm in Beth Israel having a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess things started from there. She had some more challenges while she was in the hospital. She was in the hospital from November 26th to February 1st. She did the high calorie formula as well. I breastfed. Well, they added the fortified into my breast milk. So I breastfed her. She came home from the hospital February 1st. Well, January 31st. Stopped breathing on me at home. She was sent home with the apnea monitor and a oxygen tank. Her monitor went off. I just thought maybe the little wires came loose, but I went in anyway, and my child was not breathing. I had to administer CPR. I mean, they give you the training when you're in the hospital, but you never think that you would have to utilize it. So that I would say that was one of the most scariest times
I can imagine.
I went through. Took her to the hospital. She was admitted for 5 days, and she came home. Back on the apnea monitor and on the oxygen until she was about 13 months old. And a lot of it was my fear of not wanting to let go. They wanted to take her off at 9 months, and I'm like, no. I had this traumatic experience, and I'm not gonna wonder if she's breathing or not. You're not fit to do that to me. So
exactly.
I went through a lot with her. Okay, so as she started to get older, age 1 approach, she was so small. She was little. I had a child before her, my oldest daughter, and we talking about she was premature too, but she was not emergency C-section. She was natural birth. She was only 2 pounds and 15 ounces. But you're talking about a child that went from 2 pounds and 15 ounces, and when she was 1 year old, this child was 48 pounds. Yeah. So it was a drastic difference. I had to learn the difference between the two, not to treat the two the same. When I did find out my daughter had autism, but anywho, moving forward, she was 1 year old. Of course, was not walking yet. She started walking at 15 months. She started walking at 15 months, but was still not talking. Stuff like we would take her to the park and she would not allow her feet to touch grass. You were not putting her on the grass. If you thought that's what you were doing, her feet, she was not having it. And I'm like, sis, it's grass. But you don't see those little things. You just think, okay, I got a weird kid. So it is what it is. I'm gonna let my kid be weird because it's my kid. Let them be weird. You know what I mean? And then it was little stuff like she wouldn't eat different things. Like I would hand everybody else cheese doodles and she looking at the cheese doodle and she doing this. I'm like, Since you wasting my food, like you wasting my food. You serious right now? So I had to learn her. But
Right.
by the time she came home from the hospital, Beth Israel was a real blessing to me. The social worker that I got, because I was a young mom, so I was already doubted. I was 18 with 2 kids. So they already thought I couldn't handle these 2 premature kids and different things, but they had assigned me a social worker, but the social worker ended up being a blessing, and I'm still friends with her to this day.
Oh,
She's
that's
still
nice.
good friends with me to this day. And she pointed me in different resources that built my daughter to the person that she is now. We did that occupational therapy. Nene got it from birth. Because the doctor had said so many different things. I went from she won't make it 24 hours. I went from give her 6 months, she won't be here.
Oh, wow.
Okay, she made the 6-month mark. She's a year. Well, she's gonna be a vegetable. She won't, because of the level hemorrhage. She had a level 4 hemorrhage in her brain from being born so little. So usually when that happens, that hemorrhage takes over the different areas of the brain that helps them function, talk, walk, and different things. But God is good, because there's no way she could be doing the things that she does today if it wasn't for the grace of God. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. And I knew God had a hand in that. But to back it up just a little bit, they gave occupational therapy from day one. They gave as soon as speech time was like around 6 or 7 months, they assigned her a speech therapist. I had a nurse because she had the oxygen and a monitor. She had a nurse that came out to the house twice a week. So I had visits with neurologists from sometimes on Sundays all the way till Friday. She had different people in and out. We were at different doctor's appointments and different things. So I thank God for those resources. Important for those resources to be offered to moms, especially premature babies, because of the challenges that they could face later on. But as she got older, I'm noticing that she wasn't talking at all. So now I'm starting to believe in the back of my head what this doctor is telling me, like, okay, she gonna be a vegetable. Like, she's not talking, she's not walking really. Like, you're gonna be a mom of a disabled child that can't do anything. Pretty much is what she told me. Well, when she started walking, I started shouting because I was like, "Ooh, I ain't got to carry a grown person around. I got walk me do it. Keep out walking. Like, no. You know what I'm saying? God is good. He had grace and mercy on my back. You understand? He saw what's up. He favored me. But her challenge was talking. And when she began, she wouldn't talk. So I thought that sign language would have been the thing to do with her, because she would not talk. She would point to things, do what she wanted, and she would point to it. And we automatically, me, her dad, my mom, even when my grandmother used to come down and visit, it was a thing where if she pointed to something, everybody got up to go get it. That's what we did. Not realizing that it was more harm than good. And a lot of times us as parents, I had to go through therapy because I was so overprotective of her in just nature wise, just your nature as a mom, to know that your child has different challenges. Like, I don't want her to fall. I don't want this to happen to her. She's been through enough. She's been poked and pried on, like, just different things. So I had to really go through therapy to learn how to let her be a child, because I was like, sis, shots, I don't know about all that. Like, she's gonna cry. Like, I don't want her to cry off a shot. You know what I mean? But anyway, back to her talking thing. So her occupational therapist was amazing. Her speech therapist was amazing. So they had this intervention with me one day. And they said, at the time, my last name was Wright. So she said, "Ms. Wright, we sick of you. You play too much. We think this baby can talk. And the only reason why she's not talking is because you guys, when she prompts you, you get up and you do what she wants you to do. So what's the reason for her to talk? She's gonna keep the pacifier in her mouth, and she's gonna keep doing whatever she want to do. She don't feel any reason to speak to you." So I was like, first of all, y'all ain't about to torture. I'm going in. Y'all ain't about to torture. And then the speech therapist said, "Can we try something? I need you just to trust me. Let's try something." So I'm like, "Sis, all right, I'm gonna trust you right now." But if things get a little crazy, y'all got to get out of my house because y'all not fitting to play. So they walked her over to the refrigerator, and we always kept 3 different cups. We kept a cup with water, and it was a blue cup. We kept a red cup with milk, and we kept a yellow cup with juice in it. So when she walked to the refrigerator and we opened it, she would point to the cup that she wanted, and we just gave it to her. Right?
Right.
So she said, let's walk over to the refrigerator. So we walked over to the refrigerator. I opened the door. She said to Ajanique, she says, can you get the red cup for me? And I'm looking at her like, okay, like, we're going to see how this is going to go, right? So she's looking at us, and she's looking at me, and she's pointing at the cup, and she's looking at me like, are you going to get it? And I'm like, well, can you say juice for me? Can juice, you know? And she's trying to get her to say juice, and they looking at her like, okay. In mouth, like, pointing. But then it began to get a little hurtful because she's pointing at the juice, she's crying, and Nene wasn't a loud crier.
Yeah, no.
You wouldn't even knew she was crying if you were looking at her. So tears are coming down her eyes, and at this point, tears are coming down my eyes because I know my child wants the juice, and I can't get it for her right now. So finally, after an hour of standing at this refrigerator, she screams out juice. The word juice. Child had never spoken, never said ma, dad, never any of that. She screams out juice. And I said, okay, go get your juice cup. But she's still pointing at me to do it. So I walked her over to the refrigerator and I said, grab your juice cup. She looked at me. If anybody knows Nene doesn't smile often. It used to give you this look like, Nene gave me that cut eye look, grabbed the cup of juice, snatched it, and walked off. I said, so you've been playing me for 2 years. All right, sis, I got you. You won't get nothing else to eat unless you say it. You know what I mean? So that was a big milestone and turning point for me to know that these resources were really being of a help to her, and also taught me that I have to allow her to grow. I had to learn that I'm not going to be here always. And you cannot rely on every and anybody to really understand your child the way you do. So you have to teach them the best way you can to survive in this world and to be able to do as much as they possibly can for themselves. And Nene is 23 years of age today. Nene graduated high school with a 4.9 GPA.
Oh, wow.
Nene is in college right now, and Nene is a manager at Amazon.
Wow.
She does what she does. I'm ready for her to get out. I'm just going to tell y'all the truth. Take space in my house. I want the other ones to go too for some reason. And I'm not a huggy mom. I don't know why they choose to stay here. Like, I be going on them. But they choose to stay here. I don't want to put them out, but she chooses to stay here. But she's grown so much. Even like conversations that I've seen her had. And she's diagnosed, she's autistic, and she has Asperger's. She's on the spectrum and she has Asperger's.
Okay. And that's one of the high functional autism.
Very high. She has a very high IQ. Yeah, that most kids, it's the sensory issues and it's the social
issues.
So it's mostly sensory with her and social issues. She was also developmentally delayed, speech delayed, and developmentally delayed. And her only, she was in integrated classes. I think she was in special ed for only like a year, her first grade year. And then we weaned her out and she went integrated into regular classes with help. But her only accommodation, she had an IEP. Her only accommodation was extended test time. We struggle with that to this day with time management.
So do all autistic children supposed to be like, would they put them in special ed?
Some children, it just depends. I know in my daughter's case, she started off in special ed because of her coming in and, the resources that I had, the social worker communicated with the social worker from the school. So it was like telling them what she needed, what she can and cannot do, and things that she would need help on. they started her off as special ed, but her being in special ed didn't last long because Nene was reading.
Right.
Nene was writing. Nene was, they noticed that she was moving faster than the other children there. So that wasn't the place for her. So the next year she was integrated into regular education. So it just depends on the child's needs, whether or not they're put in special ed. I know some children just need aids. I know my daughter had an aide for like 3 years where it was just a person that catered to her to make sure she was getting that extended test time, she was focusing, and different things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have because my kids are in charter school, so they didn't have special ed there either. They're just in the regular classroom.
Integrated.
And integrated the same way. But he also has an aide now. He has an IEP. My oldest having ADD, not ADHD. He's always had a 504 since like 5th grade or 3rd grade. So I've always known about that. So IEP, so 504 came into place for Brandon, but then I ended up upgrading to an IEP once all of this started. But during all of it, he was always still in class. And while I was in his classes, I can see that it was other kids in there that I don't know what was going on. I don't know. Some of them was just, they had their special aids as well and things, I don't, we just cut it.
So Brandy asks, so the question would be, do they have a clear way to test for autism? That's the question, Brandy.
Yes. Well, as far as my kid was tested through school, they did his IQ in school. They did a series of tests with him. And it was strenuous because of the fact that he didn't even want to sit and do it. So he went through testing through school, and then he also went through testing through Children's Hospital. So he had 2 different sets of tests going on. And this took a while to get done because it was also happening like right before the pandemic started. So he was able to get almost everything done before that, but then he had to finish up a few things after, like the speech and things like that, because what made it so hard to think that anything needed to be tested, because they've always said he was on, like, he needed speech, but he didn't need speech. He was always like barely passing. It wasn't like he needed it, but he was barely getting by. So it was like, okay. So it wasn't like he really needed it. It was just he had a stutter. The stutter started going away on his own. It was just like, okay, so he don't need it anymore. Right. And he didn't need speech. He was always passing through it. So, but yeah, he was integrated right through. He still is. I mean, the class they had him in, they said was the class that all the other kids who needed some sort of a special need of some sort were all in that same class. And to me, I felt like that was an issue, because the kids were getting up, walking around and distracting the class, when his issue wasn't the distraction. They were making it worse for him when I was sitting there watching. So I'm like, why would y'all put all these kids in the same class? Like, that made it worse. So it took a journey. It's been a 2-year journey, but it was definitely, they were all in the same class. But I don't want to put diagnoses on them kids, because it definitely wasn't with my child. It was definitely not the same. Those were more behavioral type of diagnosis, because they were the bullies. They were the one bullying them. So.
Oh, okay.
Right. They were the bullies that I was giving the strong eye to while I was in there, sitting in there every day. Because you was here at the house when I was sitting in there with them, and I was giving them the strong face every time they try to come his way. Come over here. So,
okay. So they do have a clear way for testing children with autism.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Mine was done in the hospital for Joshua when he was 3. So we're going to get him retested, because like I said, the last time he was 3 in the Children's Hospital.
Okay.
That's how his was done.
Now, because I know that there's a lot of people who probably think that, or wonder like, oh, well, if you have a child with autism, your children can't do what other children can do. Now, do you all find that there's have been any issues that your children don't do or can't do the same thing as other children, or is that a myth?
It's not a can't. It's just a want type of situation, I think. It's not a can't.
Yeah. Most kids for autism, mine was the type. Mine is the type. She do what she want. I'm gonna just tell you what it is. If she's gonna do it, she gonna do it. And if she not. And it's not that she can't do it. She's just looking at you. I mean, sis still count her Skittles. in the bag. Like if it's not an even number of Skittles, we got a problem. Like I'm like they
Yeah.
Right.
like so they do what they want to do. I'm gonna be
Mhm.
honest. I know mine did what she wanted to do. They just have a stronger preference and a different way of showing
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
they doing well, and I do. I know Nene, she started off in class too. When she started off in in a special ed class, I knew that wasn't the class for her, and I did try to express to them that that wasn't the place for her because of the other behavior of the kids. The sensory, it was setting her sensory issues all the way off. So now
Mm-hmm.
work done, we're not focused, we're zoning out. My daughter also experienced seizures too,
Mhm.
staring spells for a little while, and then they just kind of drifted off on their own.
Okay.
Kind of just drifted off. We haven't had issues with it since since she was about 9 or 10. But I mean, I tried to tell them, and then she got into a situation where I didn't know sis was counting how many times homeboy was tapping on her chair after she told him to stop, and he just kept tapping. And when she got to 101, a number she ain't like, well, I mean, chairs got thrown, different things, and now I'm here trying to keep myself out of jail. I mean, the boy with the desk, because she said, "Mom, I did," and she told me just like this. And I'm looking at her, and she's rocking back and forth. She pacing. She likes to pace. She still does that. So she
Okay.
said, "Mom, I did what you told me to do. I did what you told me. You told me to tell the teacher. I told the teacher. Mom, you told me to tell him to stop. I did. And 101 times. Now she had it marked off. You know, old school style where you do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's on her book. So then I had to take her to a psychiatrist because since you counting like that, you holding that up.
But
You
isn't
want
that
to
a
go
part
see somebody.
of a part of sometimes autistic children have they where they are very
Detail oriented.
yeah, very detail
Mm.
oriented. Like they have to have things a certain way.
OCD is my daughter has OCD.
Yeah.
She
It's
has
so
ADD and she has OCD. She doesn't have, well, now they don't list just ADD anymore. They incorporate ADHD with it, even
yeah.
though not all kids have the hyper.
Hyper.
Mm.
She's not hyper at all by any means. But yeah, they definitely for sure
Structure is key too. If
for
you
sure.
mess up the structure, and they're very, and my son's very literal, very literal. Like both of my kids are very literal. If you say something, you better definitely say what you meant.
You
Not, know what I'm
Mm.
saying? You can't know what I'm saying now. You got to say exactly what you meant. But both of my
Mm.
kids are like that. So, and I tell their teachers, I have to listen. If you don't know my child, I'm telling you, be very literal. Get to the point and tell them exactly what you mean. Because if you don't mean
Okay.
what you say, they're going to call you out on it, and then next thing you know, they're confused, and then the anxiety kicks in because
Mm.
you weren't literal about what you were talking about. So
yeah
structure is key. Waking up at a certain time, going to bed at a certain time. The schedule in school better not change, or Brandon's gonna have a fit. You better
Mm.
not try to switch a class and do something different and maneuver from the schedule. He's gonna have a fit. So
Okay.
once they understood structure and they got on board with the structure, which took a whole year, but once they got on board with the structure, it helped so much. And actually, the pandemic helped him because he
Mm.
was a straight A student at home.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, so that because we all know Uranus baby, well, she's not a baby now. Now she's a little grown woman. She's 23.
Mhm.
Now, how do you all prepare? How did you all are and how are you preparing? Because I mean, parenting never stops. Even at
Mhm.
23, you still parent them. How are you preparing them for the real world? Because when you go out into regular world, you know you don't have a shirt that says, "Oh, I have autism," or I have this issue, or I have sensory issues. So how do you prepare them to actually go out into the world and actually, because they're gonna have to deal with jobs and random strangers and random people, on a day-to-day basis. Even go to the grocery store now could be hectic with people and they just losing their minds. So how are you preparing your children for that?
Well,
Well,
how I
yeah,
prepared
go ahead.
was helping with structure, of course, keeping their structure plan. However, even though structure works when they're in school and you have a plan, when these children get older and they're in college,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
they have a job to maintain. The structure and nature of things change.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm.
had to really seriously. We did therapies. to putting her in different scenarios. Well, what if this changed, and what if that changed? Because everyone is human, different. The world fluctuates, and in order for them to survive and be able to take care of themselves, we have to adapt them to change. And I like the thing that Tracy said, what her doctors and her therapists are doing with her son is exposing him to different things, even though at the time it may be uncomfortable.
Right.
Because it's putting him in a position to at least get a feel for. He may not like it, but it's getting him a feel for the different structures and things of the world. And that's what I do with mine. We went to therapies. We sat down, we had group therapies. We had just me and her therapist, and just different things of showing her. I allow her to join different social clubs, different things that she didn't want to really join. I'm like, well, when you get out here in these streets, this might be it. And I'm not going to be here to put headphones on you. We went from headphones.
Yeah.
We still in headphones.
Her phone, headphones, and she's still with the earphones in her ear, but she knows while she's at work, one of those earphones have to be out. She has to be able to pay attention, and she has to be able to do her job. And she's a supervisor, so now she even gives instructions. So you're dealing with different people that you don't really want to deal with, or you don't care to deal with. But this is the way of the world. This is the way the world is evolving, and the way to do. So the way I prepared mine was different things, knowing that you're not going to be here always. You're not going to be here to tell people my child is autistic. You're not going to be here to defend them. You're not going to be here to tell someone to turn down their music. You're not going to be here all the time to do that. They have to learn how to adjust. And if things become too overwhelming for them, learn how to cope. We were taught breathing exercises. We were taught to breathe 10 times and count backwards. We were taught that. We clear your mind. We did yoga. We went out on nature walks, and we just had talks, and just different things of calming their spirit. I pray with my kids, all of them. All of them, every day. We get on the phone in the morning, and we have a prayer session. Praying over them is key. Praying over them is key to help kind of bind up whatever's trying to get in their way. Have them not be successful for that day. It's so important to pray over them and pray with them and teaching them how to pray. But just teaching them different coping mechanisms, different things. I told Nene, yeah, you going to school, you want to be an IT tech, but you're going to have to deal with people sometimes. I mean, dealing with a computer is cool, but you're going to have to go to those meetings. And you're going to have to, you know what I mean? So you have to learn how to not lose your cool, or know you're in a meeting you don't want to be in, and you can't just get up and walk out. I mean, in college, the things to know is that IEP can go with them.
Oh, really?
That IEP can go with them.
Okay.
When they're transferred from high school, that IEP can follow them, and they have to by law. I'm an advocate. Even when I was living in New Jersey and here, I am a school advocate. They have to follow the plan of whatever the IEP. Now, they are reevaluated at the age of 18 as an adult to see if modifications need to be made, but the IEP and the 504 plan can go with them to college.
Okay.
But it's important to try to get them in line. Some kids are, if they're not high functioning, it is probably very stressful. I've babysat. I've sat in with kids who are not high functioning. I've sat in with kids of low functioning, being autistic, and it's hard for them. It really is. But it's important to give everything that you can give to them so that they can grow up and be successful. I didn't think I was ever going to get here. First of all, my patience is shorter than a 1990 ponytail with a blow pop. You already know them fans, remember? So God had to give me a lot of patience. It was a lot of tears.
Yeah.
I think where God has brought her from.
Yeah.
the tears that comes to my eyes sometimes, even when I was talking to Joy the other day about her, just talking, it brought tears to my eyes to know that even though they said my daughter wouldn't.
Yeah.
These doctors told me to my face my daughter wouldn't talk, walk, or do anything. And I just kept pushing for her to do these things. And this is a child that gets in an Uber. I wouldn't trust her to drive my car. I wouldn't do that. But this child, she's like, "Mike, ask your daddy, baby. You ain't getting in my car." I'm not. But she can call her own Uber. She knows how to set her alarm. There are some challenges. Like, I still got to be like, you've been off from work for 2 days. You got that same shirt on? Is this what we going to do? Are you making good when she knows when I say, are you making good choices? She like, all right, I'm going to go take a shower and change my shirt, Mom. Yeah. Okay. Are we making good choices? So certain things I'm trying.
Right.
But some things are hard. Some habits are hard to break. She is stuck in her way. She works overnight, which is a good thing for her, only because she's up all night already. Her sleep schedule is crazy.
Okay.
But when she's off, she's pacing my home. A couple times she almost caught these hands. It was dark. I almost thought somebody or what to think. I'm like, what is doing? So I'm going to the safe like, boop, 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 boop. Like, you know what I'm saying? But a couple times she almost caught a duff. And I had to remember. I said, sis, cut on a light or something. I'm like, you pacing in the dark. What? Sis, why would you do that? Why would you do that to me in front of all my friends here in the house? Why would you do that? So some things she still does. And that's her comfort level. That's her thing that she does for comfort. So it's not harming anybody else. It's not causing her to be not proactive or productive. So that's her comfort level. So if that's what she wants to do, walk around, I suggest a night light. But if that's what she want to do, that's what she want to do. Some things I just leave her be. But I try to push as much as I can for certain things. Because we're not going to be here always. And I think our worst fear as a mom with autism, being on the spectrum, or even a possibility, is that we will not be here to protect or be able to relay something that our child needs and frustrated, and they can't relay. They can't get out what they need. And I think that was a big thing for me. Therapy is good, ladies. It worked for me. I went to different groups, because I was trying to understand different things and how to deal with her. I learned how to watch for other signs in my other children to see if they were autistic. I don't think they're autistic. I think they're run over there in my husband's side of the family. But because he only eats certain things, and I had to ask him. I said, "Sir, ma'am, are you autistic?" Because
you know what?
Like, why do you want spaghetti 7 days? Like, you don't want to talk about it. So, okay, some things you just get from your daddy. It don't have nothing to do with autism. Sister-in-law too. Sorry, Rhea, you a little. She do the same thing too. So it's just certain things. Some things are not autism.
Right.
Some things is just things happen.
They're just quirks that people have. So, Chris, what do you do that's gonna prep Brandon so that when he gets out here, he ain't got to worry about,
All right. So we are about 2.5 years in on our journey. So our journey is still new, even though it's been like tremendous changes for the better that has happened for him. One thing I would say is, when I was going through all the paperwork, evaluations, and all of that stuff, and the questions they were asking, I was like, dang, all this stuff is me too. But I wasn't diagnosed with nothing as far as I know.
Shoot, me either. I was looking at when I was doing all this research. I'm like, I might have autism.
I don't like crowds. I'm funny with texture. I know I had ADD through school because I still have it, and I'll still multitask. Like while we were on here, I'm multitasking, like messaging Josh, like, "Yo, you ain't tagging, son." Like, so I'm reading like, this is me. Like, but
Mm-hmm.
so that helped a little bit because I've got through life just fine. It's just the fact of, I know I'm a workaholic. I know where my strengths are, and that's
Right.
what I utilize. So I know the same with him. If he got a passion for something, that's what he's going to focus on. And his passion just happened to be, as long as it's not dealing with outside, he's cool. What has helped him a ton though is karate. He's been in
Mm.
karate almost a year. His karate teacher understands him because his son, he said, is the exact same way as Brandon was when he was younger. And his son is already a grown black belt, 20 something, 30, almost 30-year-old kid that I've seen him in there. So I see that he's nothing wrong. He cool. So,
Okay.
so that gives a lot of relief. On top of the fact that Brandon always been a big personality type of dude, as long as you
Mm-hmm.
do, kid, as long as as long as he knows you, the only thing that changed is if he don't know you now, he got to first fill you out before he starts speaking to you. Before, he would just speak to every stranger.
Yeah.
So that part of it changed, but he's still outspoken and will do any and everything that's needed for whatever he needs to accomplish. But that karate has helped him a ton. That teacher is like a father figure to him, which is, I guess, is another thing that he probably was missing and needed, you know?
Yeah.
So, and he knows how to speak to him. It's not just in a babyish way. He speaks to him firmly and tells him what he needs to do. And Brandon listens.
Mm.
And that has helped him with schooling, with anxiety. He told, I would say it, but, it got to come from him. So now I got to tell him to say this, and he'll listen. So that has helped Brandon. He does his breathing. The teacher also helped him through the bullying that he was experiencing with school. Doing karate also helped him with school. He got suspended a couple times because he fought back, but it was. I don't want to get petty, so I won't go there. But it was definitely it was karate has helped him a ton. Confidence, even learning how to catch a ball. Physical therapy helped with occupational therapy, helped with that. But then karate helped him learn how to stand on one foot. Stuff I thought that kids knew. I just assumed my child knew how to catch a ball. I ain't know he ain't know how to catch a ball all this time.
What you
I didn't know
mean?
he
He didn't
can't.
know how to catch a ball.
If you throw a ball at him, it will just go right. It will just
I
fall.
understand. I
So
understand
what? They
that.
don't have like eye-hand coordination kind of thing.
Right. I just
Oh, okay.
assumed. I just
Okay. I
assumed he
did.
could
I
catch.
knew. I would assume
Yeah.
that you know how to catch a ball too.
I assumed it until until the occupational therapist threw it at him, and I said, "Yo, this ball mad big. How you ain't catch this ball?"
Don't do him. Don't do him. Don't do him.
So,
Don't do
so
that, baby.
it's things like that I missed, not realizing. But
Right.
it's a different generation from me, and my kid is scared of everything outdoors. So bugs, ants, anything flying or anything he think is gonna fly, he's scared of it. And Corona don't make it no better because now he don't want to be around nobody. He will mask up in a minute, and he will not be around you. So I have to get over that first before we can get back outside to actually tackle something else. But karate has been the thing. I have no problem with donating that money every month towards that because he's changed tremendously because of that, and he's advancing with it, and he loves it. It's a passion for him.
That's
And
good.
so that's the biggest thing that has been a help for him. He's still in occupational therapy in school. Now I don't have to take him nowhere. Occupational is in school, speech is in school. And so everything is through his IEP plan in school is all on track now. Finally is together. So he's going to the 6th grade now. He started the year off with C's, like 70s and stuff, to ending it with straight A's, 95 and above. And that's because then he learned that they have a grading system that's interactive where he can look at it every day and make sure you upgrade his stuff. So if his
Oh,
grades
okay.
don't change like it's supposed to, guess what? He in that teacher face wondering why my grade ain't changed. So now this is what he's looking at. So he knows that's what he focuses on. So I feel like he'll be ready for the world. He ain't got no problem with it. He'll be ready for it. The fact that he's gotten through bullies and tackled them with no problem, literally, he can get through it.
Did
Okay.
may I ask a question? Did any of the you guys? So did everybody go through bullying with their kids or other kids in school?
No, not that I know of. I haven't seen or he hasn't come home with any. saying anything.
We went through bullying, not in elementary or middle school, but high school, I guess, because she was so quiet and didn't say much. This girl tried to target her. But, you know, she had 3 other sisters in the school with her, so that didn't end well.
They must didn't know that they exist.
Well, Niecy was the worst of the bunch.
Leave it to Niecy.
Niecy was on the first. Niecy was the first order of suspension. Okay, but is I.
So you mean by with the other kids, meaning with Brandon or with my oldest?
With well, your baby that has, both of them are not autistic, right? Just the one, right? So with your baby with autism,
he first never told me that he was being bullied. I didn't figure this. I didn't find this out until having to dig, and then that's when at that point I started going to the school, so I was able to see it. And actually, one of the kids that was bullying him was a girl that had an aide of her own. And it was not stopping her from still being a bully with a freaking aide next to you. But the aide was young. She was ratchet young, so she didn't really care. They was chasing that girl all over school trying to find that kid. So she wasn't really, per se helping.
To the parent, like, how did you handle it? Because I'm not good. I would like advice on that.
I was there. That's the problem. I didn't need to speak to your parent. I was at the school every day with Joy. Knew I left this house every day.
Every day.
And went to that school. I was there every day with him until we left school around noon, because I knew when his trigger would start, and I was making sure I was at the school for it. So if I felt like a kid was about to say something to him, my face speaks for itself. So I can look at you in the meanest way possible, and not to go nowhere near my kid. So that's pretty much what I did, and it stopped because the 2 bad ones used to walk around the class, and they will just interrupt walking around the class, tapping on their desks and stuff like that, tapping their chair, and Brandon didn't want to be touched. So if you touched him, you triggered him. If you touch anything belonging to him, you trigger him. If you kick his table, if you pick up his pencil, anything, you cannot touch his belongings. And that's what they were doing, small stuff that was triggering him. And so they tried that again this year, which was 2 years later. Different class, not them kids anymore, but they tried it again. Now they want to try it with his personal belongings, which is his baby. Right. This was his Beyblades.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, the Beyblades. Brandon wasn't playing about the Beyblades. So the Beyblades caused him to put some karate on him. And now he's known as that kid. They
knows the karate kid.
Hey.
It was 4 of them, okay? It was 4 of them at one time that he was using it on. So I'm like, and then he said, "Mommy, but I hit him with an open hand. I didn't even close my fist because I knew it would hurt. So it was an open hand. So you in the middle of going through something, mad at these people, but at the same time,
able to process.
Exactly. So it's growth in there, which means you knew that you needed to do this to stop them, but at the same time, you knew you didn't really want to hurt them. You just wanted to back them up off you. He got suspended for it, but it's cool. From there, he been cool for the rest of the school year. It sped up his process on getting his aid.
Yeah.
He got his aid, so no more bullying for him. He's cool now.
Thank God.
Yeah. So Trey, what are you doing that helps Joshua so that when he gets older, he can get out in the world and, be successful and don't have to, like, how are you, what methods are you putting into place? Well,
he's only 9, so pretty much so far is some of the things I mentioned before. For Joshua, he definitely has structure at school. So when he first started school and preschool, he was in a special ed class, and it's with one specific teacher, and I think it was half a day. And the teacher said because he was so shy that one part of the day he'll go with her, and then the second part he'll go with another teacher, different kids, different teacher. And that really worked. And before he wasn't really saying much, but so anyways, that worked out well. And then they said, okay, he's doing well, he's progressing, let's go into integrated in preschool. So that really helped out a lot. And that was a whole different set of kids, maybe 20 kids or whatever it was, and a different teacher. And he came home saying cookie. I was like, wait a minute. Now, mind you, he wasn't really talking, and he was picky. So he wasn't even eating a cookie. So this was big. We all were like, so it's big, so for him, structure at school is good, but we knew back then not to have them be like, boom, boom, getting up at this time, because I just know his personality. You know what I mean? So even like with food, you have to switch it up with a Cheeto brand, give him Cheetos or different brands, you know, because he's really picky. Switch up the pretzels or whatever it is, the milk, you know, whatever it is, what he can able to eat with all of his allergies. So like Urena was saying, because the world, everything's not going to be the same. Like what happens when you get older, even if he's younger and he goes to somebody's house, you might not be able to eat Cheetos at 12 o'clock. You know what I mean? They might have you eat it at 1:30 or, you know, so things like that. We kind of switch it up. So we're not really that scheduled here because of that. And I know when we were at the hospital, one of the therapists asked, does he need to be structured? And I said, you know, no, he does fine with that. He's like, oh, okay, that's good. So I just kind of make sure so he can kind of like, you know, go with the flow. So ever since he was little, he would go like, you know, to Laura's house and, you know, so on and so on, because different people. So different exposure, and exposing him to different noises. You know what I mean? Like the vacuum. At one point, he was always around a vacuum when he was a baby and like a young toddler. But all of a sudden he was scared of vacuum. I said, wait a minute now. How are you scared of vacuum? You've been hearing a vacuum all your life. So what I would do is some people, I mean, I wouldn't put it right by him, but I would let him keep hearing the sound. So now he helps out or whatever. You know what I mean? So different things like that. We went to a monster truck show. You know, he was fine with that. Just different, you know, noises and different things like that. Different crowds. All kind of churches, big churches, small churches, we go visiting and so forth throughout all these years, just to get them exposed. So I would just say, you know, different things like that. Just, you know, expose.
Okay. So what advice would you give for any mothers or fathers out there who may be watching and maybe kind of thinking maybe, you know, they kind of know that something's wrong with their child. They see some things that may not be happening, but they may not want to admit it to themselves. They may say like, nah, my child's good. They'll grow out of it. That's just a thing. What would your advice be to those parents?
Well, I would say, don't be ashamed. Don't get offended. If somebody says, oh, your kid should be talking by now, if it's 2 years old, whatever it is, or, oh, they're too shy. I would just say, go out and just get tested. It doesn't hurt. Don't be ashamed. You know, Chris Rock and, you know, everybody's testimony on here. Everybody's saying that you can be doing well in life. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I've heard a few people say, oh, it's because of the pandemic. My child is so shy because they haven't been out. Well, hey, that may be the case, but it doesn't hurt to go out and say, you know what, let me make that appointment for my child. It may just be because they're inside the house and they're really shy or whatever, or they may have something. Just get it done early. I know when Joshua was doing early intervention and they said, wow, you guys are doing such great a job as parents, because we would go to some people's houses and they would just sit there and not really follow through what's going on. You know what I mean? Or even at the hospital, they said some kids need to be in here having the therapy, but they're not. The parents don't want to face it. Just know whatever you think your child has or doesn't has, it won't just magically go away. If you work on it now, you heard all three of us give our testimonies. Work on it as soon as you think there's something is wrong. And somebody even telling you, this could be God telling you something. You know what? I heard these ladies say something. You know what? It doesn't hurt to make that phone call. You know, so I would just say, don't ignore the signs. You've heard plenty of stories here. And I would just say, go do that, you know?
Yeah. Urena?
Go ahead. I'm going to remember the question.
You remember? All right. All right. Go ahead, right?
Of course, like Tracy said, just reiterate, don't be ashamed. It's nothing that we did to cause our children to have autism at all. I mean, this is who they are, and it's who they were born. You know, they were born into this, and God appointed us or them or the other parents as their parent. And it's a lesson in everything. For me, it's a lesson in everything. I needed to learn patience. God gave me this task to be able to be a little bit more patient. Also, community resources are available. They are advocates. If people don't know, there are advocates who volunteer. You go to classes. Like I am an advocate, even though I work 3 jobs. I don't know what's wrong. Always want to do something. I'm in law school now too, driving me up the wall, but I find time to advocate for mine and other people's children. And even though my child is not in school anymore, not in high school, I go advocate for other people's children if I'm called upon to do so. Utilize your community resources. Utilize them. Go to your doctor and have that evaluation done. Talk to your doctor. And also too, sometimes doctors will tell you, oh, you see things like something isn't all the way right. And sometimes these doctors don't care either. I've been through that too, where they just will be like, okay, they're fine. It's just a kid. But go get that second opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Go get that second. What will it hurt you to sign your child up for developmental, or you can do that. Your insurance will pay for it. Sign up for those therapies. And if the therapist after a while doesn't feel like the child needs it, that's okay too. You've done everything that you can possibly do to put your child in a place to be successful. And that's what you have to do. So utilize community resources. There's different groups. I'm in a parent group of kids with autism, adults and children of autism. They offer good resources because they're able to help you out and tell you different things. Sometimes they get together. I haven't done it lately, but sometimes they get together. They go to parks together and they talk about different things. And different things are helpful, and doing a lot of research. But ignoring the signs, autism is not going to go anywhere. The more you ignore it, the worse those things are going to become, and it's going to be harder for you to get your child the help that they need. And it's really all about the child getting the necessary help. It really is. It's all about them just becoming the best person that they can be, because we're not going to be here always. We're not.
Chrissy? So, you said you gonna remember. You said I'm remember. Don't worry, I'm remember.
I remember it came. I'm glad we couldn't hear you just now, because I know you said something slick. All right. So mine's is somewhat similar to what Raina just said in reference to the earlier the better. Like if I knew that certain signs were triggers, maybe that could have helped. But at the same time, he did get tested by a neurologist when he was 4 and diagnosed with behavioral ADHD, because he was at that point kicking his teachers and things like that in preschool. So it was always there. It's just he wasn't diagnosed with it at that point, even though those different things exist. So the chewing on the shirt when he was a baby, he still is delayed as far as his teeth coming. He's 11 and he's only lost like 8 teeth. He got his teeth late. He walked late. All these different things did exist, but at the same time, he was doing other stuff that was magnificent, that it made those other things that just, go to the side. Who cares you wasn't walking at 12 months? You walked at 14. Things like that. I don't really remember when he started walking. He was asking me them questions on the thing, and I was like, you asking me too many questions about a kid? I don't remember. So I can't answer those questions, but I believe it was somewhere around. I don't know. But pay attention to those signs. The small things do make a difference. Even if you kind of wing it off, just still tell the doctor. It could be something that makes a difference later on, and that helped out a ton for me. Also, all these different resources, like Raina and Tracy said, Children's Hospital has been a big help for Brandon. He still goes now, just for like every 3-month type of visits, because he's graduated out of occupational, and he didn't end up having to go for behavioral because of karate being able to help with that. So Children's Hospital was the biggest thing for him that helped him a ton. Also, like Raina was saying, that structure, man, it probably happened to me when it was supposed to, out of needing to happen to make me stronger as to everything I was going through at that same time. Because, it started with him. And then like 3 months later, my mom passed. And then my dad's dementia just kicked into like a overdrive level. So I think I was being tested as well as keeping my strength together, going through all of that, still taking care of him while going to 15 doctor's appointments for Brandon, and now taking him to karate. When I thought, you can't do no after school activities with school. Ain't no way I'm gonna be able to maneuver all of that being a single mom. And I'm doing it when I didn't think I was gonna be able to. I'm doing it. So, it was a lot of stuff I felt like I probably needed those tests that I didn't think was possible. I wasn't structured. Couldn't tell me a thing about time. I didn't care about it. So, it's definitely just know that if you have those different signs, it don't mean it's the end of the world. Trust me, it's not the end of the world at all, because the different things they got right now in place with all these different therapies are definitely key and helpful towards them being better, and they love it. It's not like it's painful therapy. That stuff they doing at Children's Hospital, man, I be in there playing too. So it's fun. It is, girl. The floor is like, you step on it and it moves.
This is an ADD. She gotta go to
Make sure you take Joy with you.
That whole hospital is colorful, y'all. I'll be in there playing too.
Her and Brandon both be in there.
Yes. But
not today. I'm not going to do it. Not today.
But yes, it's no problem with going to get, what's the word?
Just
evaluated.
It's gonna check your child to get evaluated.
Yeah.
And I had to learn how to not take things personal. Some things my daughter used to say to me, I used to thought was so smart. And I'm not used to no kids talking back. Like, that's not in my DNA. So I don't know what that's like. So I'll be like, did you do your homework? Yeah.
Right. Right. It just makes you feel like you this small. Like, of course I did it. Like, what else was I going to do? Like,
you the one over there your Skittles, not me. You looking at me like I'm counting.
Well, help me understand what the Skittles mean, because I never knew this.
So she doesn't like odd numbers. So things have to be even and even color wise. So she likes things like, even at her desk at work, I visited. And she was like,
so
blue
is the
pencils,
Skittles,
and it's 10 blue pencils in the blue cup, and it's 10 red pens in the red cup. And don't take one of her pens out because it will get lit.
So how many Skittles is supposed to be in the bag?
I'm not sure. She could probably tell you how many Skittles is actually in the bag, but she'll tell you how many she has to take out. So she'll let you know, I gotta take out 5 Skittles for it to be 144 or whatever it is. It has to be an even number. And she struggles. I noticed that even as a kid, she used to have almost tantrums. If I gave her seven chips, I didn't know why she was about to throw the plate on the floor. All I knew is if you did it, you're going to have to square up because you're not about to waste my food. So I had to remember that it's a sensory issue with her. It's a sensory issue. So that's why the patients came in, and I really had to learn not to take things personal. I didn't go through even raising. See, I have 6 girls, but I raised 11 children. I raised 11. 5 boys. My boys we're a blended family. So 5 of my boys have lived with me. I've raised them. At one point, they have lived with me for years on Pine End. So at one point, I had 11 kids in my home.
God bless you. Wow.
And perhaps the elevator may not go all the way to the top, but it moves. So be for that part. But I had to remember to just be patient with her. I did, and the girls will tell you, especially Niecy, she'll say, "Well, why she ain't getting beaten too?" I said, "Because y'all knew what y'all was doing," and she in the background like this, right? So when I started realizing stuff, they used to do stuff.
That rocking, that's what he does. That rocking you just did.
Yeah.
That was since he was 9 months old. He did that, but I never put it together. So that rocking is a key part.
Anxiety. So I for anxiety. I do that when I'm at work. We're about to go
I
hang.
rock all the time myself.
And
I'm rocking right now. You probably, if you look at this chair, you probably see me. I rock myself to sleep.
Joy rocks.
Night.
Yeah, she rocks herself to sleep.
I
I'm
rock
like, really?
So that's why I said some things are not autism. My mom used to do that. Some things are really genetic.
Listen, we didn't get diagnosed at that time.
That's what I'm saying. I've never seen it. And what you used to hear is,
can I get
kids who didn't do well in school, they just go home and get a beating.
Yep.
That's it. And
but back in the day, though, the stigma back in the day was, especially in the Black community, these things did not exist. Kids had autism, did not exist. Kids had did not exist.
Down syndrome was the only one that everybody knew.
Know how to do. So how can a generation before us teach us how to educate us on how to take care of children with these challenges if that's not the way we did it? If you eat your food, you sat at the table until that food was gone.
Or you didn't eat.
Yeah, like Mommy Dearest can't get up on the table.
I remember there's been plenty of times I went down south.
And my mom didn't use no bells. My
grandmother, she'll cook something. I tell her, I don't eat that. And she'll be like, oh, so you're not eating tonight. And you think this woman will feed me? That woman sure enough wouldn't. She'll feed all the rest of them kids. She wouldn't cook me not a biscuit, not a sausage. She'll like, you just gonna starve. I had to like beg my cousin, my aunt, and go to like Hardee's or something to get me a hamburger so I don't starve.
Oh wow. And then you're gonna eat food out after I just cooked? You're gonna eat food out?
I didn't eat the food that she was cooking.
Wasting food and money, Joy.
Look, I couldn't starve now. I'm supposed to be away on vacation.
Listen, so a lot of things
definitely different.
We just don't know because we didn't things back in the day. So a lot of things we're just learning, and a lot of Black community too. The resources were not there because mental health and different things did not exist in our community. Those things people didn't have different things going on with them. They just thought it was, oh, you acting up? Got something for you.
Exactly.
You understand? And when a lot of things is not acting up, a lot of children really struggle with sensory issues. Oh my God, out boom, and it bothers them. And it's almost like my daughter's therapist said, like her hearing something and it upset her to the 10th power. To the 10th power.
See, but we did have special ed in school growing up. But did we know what was wrong with?
I thought they was.
But we just thought they were bad. I just thought they were bad kids. Like they were the kids that were always,
We never. I don't think we've ever. I don't think to this day I never knew anyone's diagnosis as to why they were in special ed, except for behavioral.
Yeah,
probably like a learning disability, like learning.
What? Yeah, we might be like, all right, they kind of slow. They don't know how to read or
catching up or whatever. Yeah.
No, but I used to befriend those children. Those kids, I used to have this.
They were bad.
I was not a bad, but the kids that I saw that like had Down syndrome and stuff and things. I have a cousin that has Down syndrome, so they used to warm my heart. So I used to walk with them to class, and I used to be like, I wish you would put touch.
Well, that's where Niecy gets it from.
Yeah.
Listen. Yep. That's me all day right there.
See, but Down syndrome was the only one we knew.
That's it.
That's because you could see it on their face.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you could see
Why
it.
Would you look like that, Chris?
I know it.
It's the truth.
I know what she meant.
I'm not. I am.
No, what I'm saying is they all have that same look. You can tell that they have Down syndrome.
Now, some people,
you know what, Chrissy? I'm about to end this live. All right, because y'all ain't getting me canceled.
Yeah, but I hope some people at my job is watching because they look. All right. I got it.
All right, good night.
I told you.
Let's spot him with people. Y'all, it's been a great night.
We made it a whole hour before this started.
Exactly. We were doing so good.
You started
so good, y'all. I don't want to go to hell. Hell no. I don't want to go to hell.
Well, guys, we want to thank you all for everyone who joined us and watched this live. We want to thank you for watching. I hope that some of the information that you all received tonight will be helpful to you, some of your loved ones, possibly. And we would just want you to know that if your child do have any challenges, look at it as nothing's wrong with children with autism. I was looking at a a video on autism, and they were saying how children with autism, it's not like something's wrong with them. It's not like they're broken. They're not broken. It's just that their perception is a little bit different than our perception.
They're wired.
Yeah, they're just wired differently. Doesn't mean that they broke. It just means that the way that we process it, they don't process. They use the analogy of just because Xbox
we the dumb ones.
this doesn't play in a Xbox. What's the other one?
PlayStation.
The PlayStation doesn't mean
We have a
that the
PlayStation.
Xbox is doesn't mean that the PlayStation is broke. It just means that it doesn't. It's not. It don't
They got the
to work.
360. They got the 360 look on things, man. So
Yeah, they just process things different. The way they see things are different. And the thing about it is, a lot of them, because the way they see things, they have some great. Some of them will be some of the greatest inventors, because their mind works differently. They're not wired the same exact way. So that means that they'll be able to see things in a totally different way that gives us a new perspective. And we need to embrace that more so than look at it like, oh, well, they're outcasts, because they're not. They just see things a little bit differently. And once you start to open your mind up a little to try to see like, oh, so they see it like this.
yeah, you're the closed-minded one.
Exactly. You've been so zoomed into just thinking inside the box that you scared to look outside the box. And these children, they just happen to look outside the box first before they decide to look in. And that's it. So if you have any children, or even if you want to get yourself evaluated, because trust me, a lot of us been misdiagnosed for sure. So
It's not to God. I'm able to juggle this thing because I knew a check was in the. I don't know why I don't have it. I tried, but they wouldn't. I know that God has a different plan for my life. I don't understand. I don't.
Yeah. So
they won't give me one.
Yeah. So we want to thank you all. I want to thank all of my panelists tonight. Thank you, ladies, for coming and giving us your sharing your little bit about your journeys with your children and how you all are preparing them for the real world or in this crazy world. God forbid. But if you need to reach out to any of them, everybody's tagged. So if you have any questions, or if you want to, I'm sure if you want to keep in contact with or talk to any of the ladies through Facebook, is it okay for them to feel free to reach out to you guys if they have questions?
In reference to this topic.
In reference to this topic, yes. I mean, I will reach out to them and be like, yo, what that thing do? No.
Because we already know one of y'all got a lot of men on y'all page that be reaching out.
Who?
For no reason.
Urania?
No, dang it. Hold on. I'm backwards.
Joy? Do I? Oh my gosh. I want to talk about it. I got a bunch of people on my page. I don't even have to know half these people.
Because you always just be accepting people. I'm like, what you accepting these people for?
Yeah, I know. But I love you guys, Facebook.
But don't hit me.
If you have any questions, or if you have questions, if you see that, some of their stories may have touched you, and you may have some more questions about certain things, please feel free to reach out to them in regards to that. And and I just hope that you all, do you ladies have any last minute things you want to say? Any final thoughts?
Just 504 plans and IEPs are lifesavers, so take advantage of them as well. So don't make sure you understand that every school has it. So if your child does have ADD, ADHD, or any autistic type of diagnosis, take advantage of it because it's there. Take advantage of it.
Yep. Okay.
It's to help as soon as you can. Yep. I mean, like I said, I'm an advocate in the state of Maryland. I was an advocate in Pennsylvania too. I'm not an advocate in Maryland. I mean, in New Jersey, but I can help point you in the right direction. You do have some questions that I can answer for you. I'll do my very best to answer them. And if some of y'all need a therapist, I got one too. I want to see you too. That's all.
Trey Bay.
Yep, I would say exactly what the two ladies said. If you know any therapists, I know great many that worked with Joshua. And a quick testimony, like I said in the beginning, Joshua was not talking. Later on, he started saying cookie and everything else. And with the wonderful therapist, there was also, if you need help with that, they had a book and they had like a picture of like ball, cat, whatever it was. And they had the word I will, just different words. And they helped him form sentences, starting with like, I will throw the ball. I will catch the ball, and just so forth and so forth. It had Velcro on it. He'd take it off, put it on the book, and just play around with that, and then helped him build sentences. And now if you talk to Joshua, sometimes you can't even keep him quiet. So that's my testimony. So do the work like what we're saying. Do it early. Do it now.
One other thing, if their child is struggling with reading or speaking, I used believe it or not, that the program Your Baby Can Read.
Oh yes, we did. Yep.
It helps so much. The hook that Your Baby Can Read. I know my child who's not autistic, my one that's in 5th grade, going to 6th grade. This child was reading at 9 months old, reading 4 books. You know what I mean? That program is amazing, but it'll also help them as well. That Your Baby Can Read program is amazing.
Excellent. Yep, we did that too. Yep.
All right.
But we want to say thank you to Joy. Thank you for coming up with this topic and putting us on. Very exciting.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of kids that I love that have autism, so I was just like, I got to make sure my babies know. Get it out there. Make sure that people know, nothing's wrong with them, and understand them and embrace them, and embrace the people that they are. That, God made them. God made them precious. God made them, different for a reason. They're gonna be the change. So I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. We will see you again. I think Josh should be coming on next Friday, probably at 9:00. That's going to be for the lady who has can show you how she's an FBI agent, and she's going to be giving advice on how to get a government job. So if you're looking for a job and you're looking for a good job that you probably keep and make a career out of, tune in next Friday, I believe at 9:00. But just check in on the on a page and find out. Josh will update it very, very soon, I'm sure. All right. So that's a wrap for us. Good night to you all.
Good night.
And as I always say, never let anybody steal your joy.